Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Filmmakers Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk filmmaking, from indie film to studio films to high-end TV to documentaries and everything in between. How to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to royally F them up in our very, very humble opinion. I am Giles Alderson, a writer and director, and we're delighted to welcome onto the show today one of the greatest living chroniclers of human neurosis and family life within filmmaking. It is the Oscar-nominated writer and director, Noah Baumbach. Yeah, that's right, Noah Baumbach. He's here to talk about his latest film with Lenoir called J. Kelly, which is a dazzling meta-look at the cost of fame, and it stars the phenomenal duo of George Clooney, who both me and Dom have met, and Adam Sandler, who me and Dom have not met yet. And Dom dives into a chat with Noah Baumbach about casting, about rehearsal, about performance, about method acting and directing, and why he doesn't call action. Oh, kind of exciting, right? Oh yeah, Noah Baumbach on the podcast. Now, this isn't necessarily a super long one, which is cool, because then you can get into some of our other episodes. Just in case you don't know, here are some of Noah's credits. He started off, his major breakthrough was The Squid and The Whale in 2005, a semi-autobiographical look at a family splitting apart, which earned him an Oscar nomination for Best Original Screenplay. Imagine that. He'd also collaborated just before that with Wes Anderson, one of his early collaborations on The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. And he made Frances Ha, which he co-wrote with Greta Gerwig, his partner in life and in filmmaking. And this is an indie favourite, shot in black and white, focusing on female friendship and arrested development in New York City. Another one of his big, critically acclaimed movies is Marriage Story. This was an award success, 6 Oscar nominations, and he got 1 win. And it is a raw, intimate, and highly acclaimed look at divorce. And very recently, he was part of the team that made Barbie, because he co-wrote the script with Greta Gerwig, who directed it. His involvement in the massive cultural and commercial hit, it kind of shows his versatility and sharp wit, which can transcend any genre. I love this director. He's so cool. He's such an indie darling. He's one of us. He knows how to make indie movies. He knows how to make them. And his films are so, well, they're dialogue driven. They are dense with highly accurate, neurotic and self-aware characters. And the words these characters use themselves are kind of a weapon. He uses them as a weapon or a defense mechanism. His characters are frequently artists, writers, professors or intellectuals, and they're grappling with failure, success, and the transition into adulthood or into middle age. And a lot of his films are about dysfunctional families or divorce. You know, he loves that, the complexities of all that. Sibling rivalry is often in there, and sometimes generational divides. This is an incredible filmmaker. You can do this. It's not easy to create that perfect bubble and to capture it so well, and it's so natural and stylized at the same time. His visual style is exactly that. It features New York City a lot, but he uses choppy camera angles and these intense close-ups, and it makes you, me, the audience, uncomfortably close to these characters and the emotional turmoil that they're going through. So I'd highly suggest you look at his back catalogue, but I definitely suggest you watch J. Kelly, which is out now. It's fantastic. It's super movie. He directed this and co-wrote it with Emily Mortimer. Emily's a British actress who has been on this podcast. If you want, go to our website, thefilmmakerspodcast.com, and put in Emily's name and you'll be able to listen to that excellent episode with her. J. Kelly is a dramedy, shock, horror, that follows a famous movie star, played by George Clooney, as he embarks on an unexpected, profound journey through Europe with his devoted manager, Ron, which is played by Adam Sandler. The film is a self-reflective look at celebrity, legacy, regret, and the toll a public life takes on family. J. Kelly, the film, is highly meta, it's satirical, it explores the blur between a star's public persona and private identity. Noah Baumbach also shot the film on 35mm, so it's got that beautiful, warm, old Hollywood aesthetic. Laura Dern also stars in this movie, who's incredible. The film is produced by Amy Pascal. She's known for, if you don't know, franchises like Spider-Man or films like Little Women, and also produced by David Heyman. David Heyman is a British producer, and he's incredible. One day I want to get him on the podcast. He produced Harry Potter. He optioned the book for Harry Potter. He also produced Barbie and Gravity, which I had a small part in helping the film get made. Yes, Gravity. If you don't know that story, it's on a previous podcast. So if you fancy going back and listening to some of our previous episodes, then do dive in. Now, we've had some incredible guests on recently, by the way. If you haven't listened for a little while, then let me just run down some of them. If you have, thank you for listening. But some of these guests, it's ridiculous. This is just the last sort of, 9 or 10 or whatever. So last week we had the director, James Vanderbilt, talking about Nuremberg. Michael Shannon, the actor, is also on that episode. And then we had Edgar Wright, the director of Scott Pilgrim, Baby Driver, Shaun of the Dead. He's talking about Running Man, and what an episode that is. Again, I was in Bulgaria, I couldn't do that, Dom did it, but I did sit down with David Mackenzie, the director of Relay, and Riz Ahmed, who that film stars. Riz Ahmed's amazing. And actors out there, if you haven't listened to that Riz Ahmed episode, do listen to that. And then follow that up with Channing Tatum and Kirsten Dunst, as well as director Derek Cianfrance talking acting, directing in Roofman. Other ones include Benny Safdie. Yep, Benny Safdie. We also are going to have his brother Josh Safdie, secret, it looks like, coming on the podcast as well very soon. And we also might have a ridiculously massive guest, Tolly Shields, one of our favourite marketing PR people out there in this industry. She dropped a name to me and Dom the other day while we were recording with Kristen Stewart and Imogen Poots, by the way, episode coming up. Kristen's movie, The Chronology of Water, is incredible. A fragmented world about abuse, loss. It's beautiful, but you have to be in the right state of mind to watch this movie. But oh my god, indie filmmakers out there, this is how to do a debut movie. Incredible. But the guest, Tolly Shields, mentioned, it blew my mind. If we got this person on the podcast, and you all know who it is, it would blow my tiny little mind that I get to chat to this amazing director. Wow. Anyway, let's see, fingers crossed. Anyway, also another episode to listen to is Joseph Milson's How to Make a Micro-Budget award-winning indie film. His feature film Signs of Life is incredible. He made that with minimal crew. So do listen to that, micro-budget filmmakers out there. We've got some more of those podcast episodes coming up very shortly as well as some amazing guests like Gus Van Sant. That's not the massive one either. I mean, he's massive, but it might have an even bigger one. I love it. So thanks for those that listen. Do if you like this, tell your pals. We do this for fun. We do this because we didn't have this kind of a podcast when I first started out. So I wanted to create something that could help you by filmmakers who actually are making stuff. So if you like this in any way, shape or form, do pass it on, tell your friends. It is really important, because otherwise it's just us trying to throw a podcast into the shit tube of life and podcasts, and if people don't hear about it, they don't know about it. So just keep spreading the word, please, especially if there's an episode you really liked. It would mean a lot. It would mean a hell of a lot. Right, let's get to the guest, which is Noah Baumbach, talking to Dom Lenoir. Dombach meets Baumbach. That's a Dom pun just for Dom and for no one else. So this is it. This is the episode. Oh, you're going to love it. Enjoy.
Say hello, quickly.
Hello.
Sounds good to me. Perfect. So, welcome to the Filmmakers Podcast.
Thank you.
We're a filmmaking podcast, so we go through all the amazing process and tips and tricks and challenges along the way. But I'd love to sort of start off by just saying what an incredible movie it is.
Yeah, thank you.
It felt like a hark back to classic American cinema and the kind of warm era of I don't know, nostalgia and melancholy, and it was a really sort of deeply affecting movie. Can you maybe talk a little bit about how the idea and how you sort of started the initial phases came about?
Well, I think to what you're saying is it was something. Often when I'm starting something, writing something, I don't know why it's interesting to me. I mean, I do, but I don't. I'm not sure why now I'm following this thread. And I think it was something that as I was working on it, there was both the sort of psychology and emotional psychology, identity and mortality and endings and friendship and family and movie
And reflection.
and reflection and all of those things were compelling to me. But then a kind of shadow narrative was sort of this affection for movies and movie making and loving that I get to do this, and also going to the movies, and and so I it was something that Emily Mortimer, when we were working on it, we didn't even have to express that much. It was kind of just there. But I think all the things you're remarking about, if sort of they were naturally part of the language of the movie, so that when we were, it became part of the locations. It became part of the scene structure. It became part of the casting. That all of these things would, in some sense, both honor the reality that we've created for the movie, but also have something cinematic about them. I mean, in a way, or at least an acknowledgement that we like this in movies.
Yeah. well, I mean, there is. I mean, you talked about a couple of the things there, but there's so many layers. I mean, as people that work in the film industry, there's that sort of empathizing in terms of like the loneliness and the star system and that kind of bubble and how people interact, and the looking for connection and the fakeness and the warmth. And I mean, that's a very big part of it, especially with sort of George and Adam's character.
Right.
But then there's also the sort of the challenges of the industry and making films, and there's this life reflecting journey. I mean, did you have the cast in mind when you sort of started off? Because they feel, I mean, George feels like the perfect, embodiment of this, and Adam gives like an incredible sort of, one of the best performances I've seen him do.
Yeah, they were both came to mind early on. Adam I had worked with, so I've been wanting to find something for Adam again, and we become very close, and so. And I thought with Ron, it was an opportunity to also, for Adam to, the character has, even though it's a very different character from Adam, but many of Ron's traits, his sort of generosity, his loyalty, his priorities with his family, his are things that are so true of Adam. So I felt like it could be something that would, in a sense, be quite close to him, but also in a guise that, I mean, Adam's more like Jay Kelly than he is like Ron in real life. I mean, just in terms of who he is in the culture.
Yeah, sure.
George, I've been wanting to work with for quite some time, and about 20 years ago, he said to me at an event, "If you ever need an actor," and I
casually,
and so I've sort of had that in my back pocket, and so I was like, okay, well, I'm cashing in this thing you said offhanded to me 20 years ago that I'm sure you've no memory of, but they seemed like a nice pairing too. It just felt good to me, and the fact that they hadn't done anything together seemed kind of exciting too. They knew each other a little bit. They both played basketball. It was sort of like, I don't know. It was true. I mean, they were quite affectionate with each other they hung out all the time, when we weren't shooting. They were always just there. They're like in some room here now doing press together, making each other laugh. It's quite sweet.
And I think what I like about their performances as well, and your sort of choice of casting and how you worked with them, is that they are both such classic examples of the Hollywood system, and they're often cast as a very particular leading man, and they've both tried to deviate out of that sometimes. And it must have been a very sort of vulnerable place to go as an actor, to a sort of a theme that is so inherent to their own lifestyles as a sort of A-list actors. What was the process in those discussions when you first started talking about the project and just the character discussions?
Well, I think with George particularly, what he does in the movie, which is quite and the thing with George is that it's part of his charm as a movie star, is there's a certain kind of effortless quality. I mean, but that is what movie stars often portray for us, is a certain kind of like that they just walk in and they're, that the movie just fits them. And of course, it's incredibly difficult. I mean, he says it in the movie, how hard it is to play yourself, because it's not him. And I think in some ways it was even more difficult because George had to play someone who by design, by the fact that he's a movie star, there's a sort of verisimilitude that's just built into it. But what he does is very slowly start to reveal these sort of cracks and this vulnerability in this person, and this sort of unknowing, this sort of search, this and these painful discoveries that start to creep up on him. And watching George architect that with me along the way, and knowing where he was at every point, and you shoot out of order, of course, when you shoot a movie. So like, just like watching that, and I think you experience it in the movie, because the movie kind of moves and by design moves with a kind of joy and charm of the character in a sense for a while, but there's this undertow of melancholy and this sort of senses of mortality that start to sort of seep into the movie. I mean, you start in Los Angeles where you feel like you can live forever, and you go to Italy and the first location is a graveyard, and it's and that so I think it was really, I think, is a really remarkable performance. I mean, for both of them, but I think, but in a sense, I think it's sort of like, because he's playing a part already that people are going to say, oh, is he playing himself? It's that much more remarkable because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that sort of surprised me is the cracks that you mentioned in terms of like when he comes out, because he's a very smiley character a lot of the time through the movie, and then you sort of see when the mask drops, and he sort of goes into the the real face, especially when he's talking with his old acting friend, and that moment sort of reveals himself. I mean, that's a fantastic performance between those two in the bar. Can you talk a little bit about how you worked with those two in that situation?
Well, everybody rehearsed for 2 weeks. So, I mean, depending on how much they were in the movie, they were there, and we worked on all the scenes together. We also worked with both George and Billy with their Charlie Rowe and Louis Partridge, who played their younger selves. We did rehearsals. I did rehearsals with the four of them, so that I had the George and Billy do the younger guys' scenes in front of the younger guys,
right, nice.
So that they could sort of witness that. So like, so yeah, it was something. I mean, we spent on the scenes that they did together. We rehearsed them for a while, but of course, I didn't until we actually did it. When Billy reads the menu, for instance, I didn't.
I mean, that's such an incredible, like, in experience for anyone in the film industry. It was just brilliant.
Well, I thought also the pleasure of watching, great actors and a movie that's on some levels about performance, to actually watch an actor craft a performance in front of you would be kind of interesting, and it'd also be not the one who became the actor. Billy kept warning me though that that he isn't a method actor and that he doesn't work that way, and he wasn't going to be able to do it. But I just didn't listen to him, and I knew he would come through. But those scenes I love shooting scenes like that because we shoot the whole scene. We just, we just do it, and you get to watch actors really kind of swim through all the various twists and turns that those scenes require, and it's I don't know, it's just great to be witness to that. I mean, as a director, to watch people do that.
And I suppose a lot of it's the conversations you have in advance, and it's also picking actors that are capable of sort of going to those internal places and the emotions. But I mean, what's some like maybe quick advice in terms of like maybe you've been with an actor on, it doesn't have to be this project, but in the past, and you're really trying to get them to a sort of emotional, and there's some kind of block. I mean, what's yours? Do you have a sort of a toolkit of talk arounds or?
Well, I think part of it is not to put, I think, when actors read scripts or when they decide to do parts, and then if there's like a scene that's particularly emotional or something like that, they all have that earmarked, okay, this is, even if they decide to ignore it, of course, that's its own way of earmarking it. And I think part of it is not to make a big deal out of it. It's sort of like to treat that day as any other day. And even though I know on some level, if you can't get there, I don't know that I have the scene. The movie may hinge on this.
You don't convey it to them.
So even if they're incredibly experienced, and also the thing, part of a director's job is learning the actors. Actors I've worked with before, I already have a shorthand and things that I know how they might work best. But that is part of what rehearsal is, I think, is also for me and for them to understand how I work, and for me to understand how they work, and for us to find a place that is comfortable for both of us. It might not always be comfortable for both of us, but but that's okay. So that, and one thing I tend not to do, I don't call action usually, because I like for the kind of off camera and the on camera to blend and feel somewhat seamless. I mean, we shoot on film, so there is a little bit of
rolling camera
drama of the camera turning on, as opposed to digital where you can just run and not worry about it. And often, the camera will roll out, and you hate to break it to the actor that the last part we have.
Get the light out, we're running out of film.
Sometimes you just don't say anything and then just do it again. But I think it's really like knowing who you are working with, trying to understand what the issue is. I mean, if they're creating too much pressure for themselves, try to take that pressure away. Say, we can come back and do it another day, even if you don't have another day, just like, things like that. I mean, I've worked with kids a lot too. And I think, that, kids often can, produce, like, you're both getting things that are wonderfully unpredictable and things that only kids can do. And then at the same time, you want to capture that, but also be able to continue to tell the story that you need to tell. So there often are things that they need to do, to tell the story. And so that's always this balance too, is both. And I, in a way, I think it's working with kids a lot. I sort of also have brought that to adults as well. It's like, is just to, just
give them the space to fail, I guess, or the illusion of fail, being able to fail.
Absolutely. Well, I think, acting is failing all the time. Not or I shouldn't say that. It's not failing. It's just not
trying things that you might not be the final result.
Yeah, exactly. And it's probably like, like Roger Federer was saying about tennis, or what, if you baseball, it's like, you are losing more than you're winning, even if you're winning. And, I think some of movie making is, meaning like points and, thing, but it's like that, in baseball, if you hit 300, you're getting one hit in 3, you're still not getting on. So you do want that feeling of like, that anything is, like just to be game to try everything, and for them not to feel tight or, like
constricted by the system.
Yeah. I have so much affection for actors, because when you look at what they have to do coming on, particularly you're on a, movie with a lot of equipment and people and things, it's like they've got to come on there and they have to perform, and it's a very vulnerable place to be under any circumstances, let alone with all these people and a clock ticking and money being spent at every second.
Just sort of bouncing onto that one, onto the actual filmmaking side of the film, because there's a couple of bits that are very assured filmmaking that I think, maybe independent filmmakers or someone that's not got a good back catalogue behind them would be confident doing, which I think really sort of set the piece. Like, one of them is the introduction into the sort of filmmaking world. There's some really clever use of like lights coming on. There's another scene where he sort of looks through a train, and then you see a bed, and then there's these kind of amazing transitions. And it's all very, also there's another bit with, I think it's Riley Keough's character in the woods, which I thought was brilliant, where you bring the phone conversation into a real interaction rather than being sort of disconnected.
Right.
And they're all quite bold things, but you integrate them and you ground them. And I think, that those are the sort of things that I think sometimes maybe starting out directors are afraid to do, is those kind of decisions or choices, and really like stick to their guns on things. Can you, was that always in your version of the script? Do those things always pan out? Just what's your take on that?
Well, yeah, I think they were in the script. What was in the script in terms of the memories was that he would walk from one place to another, and there he would be in his memory. And part of that was a way to visualize what is, it's obviously an internal process for us, but that the memories always exist. They're there. They're available to us if we want them. And if we can retrieve them, but they don't always come by, we don't always summon them up. They happen to us. A thing triggers it. And so, I think it was a way to physicalize that and make it cinematic, but it took, so I had that sense, and I knew was another thing that was important to us is that everything be done practically, not, that we weren't going to have any CGI or anything like that. So it did take us quite some time, even though ultimately the solution is quite simple. It's a set attached to another set. It's like the present day set is attached to the past, but it took a lot of figuring things out and working with Mark Tildesley and Lena Sangren, the production designer and cinematographer, and shooting tests. And there's, for everything you see in the movie, there's a lot of iPhone videos of PAs walking and and things in taped out space with like and so I think part of it is really being thorough and really working out the methodology. The other thing is knowing both intuitively and also consciously what is the language of the movie, like what language can the movie hold. And so it felt right, but it wasn't until we actually like did it that we could kind of see that it would work. And, I guess it is a thing that comes from experience, but it is something that, those things that you don't wing them.
Lots and lots of planning before you shoot.
Yeah, even if what you come to is the simplest thing. I mean, the Riley Keough in the woods, which has this sort of magical feeling to it, she's just hiding behind a tree. So, so that it's actually, I don't know that there's a simpler solution to that one, but it in that case, it took a lot of brain trust to kind of come up with how we were going to do it in the simplest way possible.
Yeah. I think we've got to wrap up there. If you had one bit of 30-second advice just for young filmmakers or aspiring filmmakers, just something really quick just to wrap things up, that would be amazing.
Well, under any advice about just anything?
Like maybe directing your first feature or, yeah.
Well, the best advice I ever got was from Ethan Cohen, actually, which was when I was making the Squid and the Whale, I had hired a friend's cat, and because I thought, well, I'll save money on the cat. But the cat had to do some significant things in that movie, and I was sort of telling him, "Oh, I've got the cat my friends have this really pretty cat," and he said, "Hire a professional cat." and he said it in a way that I knew he was
exactly
right.
What you meant.
So
yeah.
I hired a professional cat, which was actually 2 cats, and I'm very glad that I did.
Amazing. That's a lovely thing to end on. Well, thank you so much. I mean, this film is just such a poignant movie, and I think sitting in that cinema is the experience that everyone wants. At the end of this movie, being a filmmaker, being emotionally moved, it's everything I go to the cinema for. So thanks for giving us that.
Thank you for saying that.
Lovely. Okay, thank you very much.
There we have it. It was short, but a masterclass nonetheless, with Noah Baumbach talking about making indie films and getting out there and doing it. And you can do the same. Don't be shy. Look what he's done with his career. You can do this too. You really can. This industry is shit. It's really hard. It took me 10 years to make my first film as a director. I was doing all sorts of crap before that. Not all of it was crap, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. I was doing bar mitzvah videos. I was doing anything I could get my hands on in terms of corporate, just filming whatever I could. I was learning. I was practicing. I learned to edit. I learned to shoot. And it only made me a better director. Would it have helped if I'd made a film within that 10 years? Maybe, maybe not. Can't say. Your journey is your journey, and what it was meant to be is what it was meant to be. So don't worry, don't despair. If this is what you want to do, then fight for it. Knock on the doors. Send emails. Go out there and film something yourself now on your phone. Hopefully we're going to have a director on the podcast very soon who has done exactly that. Shot everything himself. Everything. Just him making the movie by himself. I'm looking forward to chatting to him about that. I think the film's out in January, February, so hopefully he'll be coming on to talk about that. But you can do it. Don't let anyone tell you no. And if they do, so what? Get 100 no's. You only need 1 yes. And you are that person to say yes, by the way. You put a date on it, it's your film and it is happening. You watch people come. When you say a film is happening and here's the date, suddenly people start knocking on your door going, "Oh, you're actually making it." Yeah, I am making it. This is happening. Make it happen. Believe in yourself and believe in your project, believe in you. Get out there and make it. Don't wait. I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode with Noah Baumbach. How could you not? By the way, like I say, guests coming up are just phenomenal. And if you're lucky enough to rise up and do well, as Noah Baumbach has done, it is your duty to send the elevator back down. We will see you next Tuesday. As always, it might not be Tuesday, it depends. I'm a bit busy. Great. We'll see you soon, at some point anyway. And if you see me around, say hello. Take care, everyone.